Hello everyone, and welcome to my review for Kengan Omega Chapter 113. Before I get into this week's review, I of course have to mention my subscriber goal for 2021, hitting 5,000 by the end of the year. So if you're already a fan of my channel and you're not subscribed, you might as well help me reach that goal. Also, if you're a fan of this channel, I highly suggest you go and subscribe to my backup, since I do have 2 copyright strikes on the channel, so go subscribe to that one in case anything happens to this channel. Other than that, I have a Patreon. If you want to get access to some extra content or just help support me and the channel directly, you can always become a patron. I have that link down in the description. With that out of the way, let's get on with the review. As I'm sure most of you are aware, the usual translating group for Kengan is no longer going to be translating the series, and there's going to be a new group doing it, including Shadow King Requiem, who has done the speed translations that I've been working with for a while. Now they are going to be releasing scanlated chapters on Saturdays. I'm still going to be doing reviews on Wednesdays for the most part, unless something comes up. So here we are today. Seems like Shadow King is still doing pretty much summaries of the chapters on the subreddit, so that's pretty helpful, and I'm going to be working with that for a lot of this review. So, at the end of the last chapter, Liu pretty much got fucking cratered into the arena by Nitoku, and there were a lot of people who thought the fight was actually over, mostly because Nitoku said that Liu had lost. Pretty much said, because of what you're doing, you lost. Not that he was declaring the match over or something, I guess. Well, Nitoku doesn't have any official say in that. So it was really just him being very confident in the fact that Liu was not going to beat him. But the fight wasn't actually over. And my big reason for being skeptical of the fight actually having ended last chapter was the fact that we still hadn't gotten anything to do with Liu's backstory. Didn't get any kind of flashback or anything like that. And it seemed like the perfect opportunity to have that. And we get that this chapter. We have Liu thinking about his childhood and his upbringing, and all of the various factors involved in it. And he's hallucinating himself walking around and talking to Naidan. Because it should be of note that he got smashed into the ground so fucking hard that he's dreaming right now. He's technically unconscious, or he's slipping in and out of consciousness when he's seeing this stuff. So Nitoku really did a number on him there. But we learned that Liu's parents were apparently political figures in both the Chinese and Taiwanese political spheres. To some extent, it's not really clear, at least from the summary, what exactly that was, what specific roles they had. Oh no, Kengan refers to Taiwan as separate from China. Uh-oh, what will happen there? But yeah, so Liu really never did anything except kind of being used as a political tool by his parents and then training in martial arts with his father. So when he finally met Naidan, he became a friend of his. He had met another talented martial artist, and he wasn't lonely like he used to be. So that was why him and Naidan were so close, or why Liu cared so much about Naidan. Now I'm very glad that we got this, because one of my favorite aspects of Naidan is his friendship with Liu. It adds a lot more depth to his character beyond him just being this crazy worm guy that's on the Purgatory team. And it already set up really good stuff for Liu's character, him being friends with Naidan and Naidan dying during the tournament. As soon as Liu went up to fight, we knew that was going to play some kind of factor into it. So I'm very happy that we got into that with this chapter. And we get this really good page towards the end of Liu daydreaming, where he's been walking around with Naidan following him this whole time, and he turns around to say something to Naidan, and there's this panel of Liu standing on the stage by himself with a completely black background, and there's no one there with him, so he's alone again. And that's the first time in a while where I feel like a panel from Kengan has kind of hit me emotionally. Because in Ashura, there were a few of those. You had a decent number of pages or panels that just really, they were a gut punch emotionally. And we haven't really gotten anything like that in Omega so far. And I actually kind of felt that with this panel with Liu, this chapter. So that's really great. That's going to be the thumbnail for this video. Yeah, so Liu gets up. Some people in the comments last week in various places were saying that if Liu manages to get up from this throw, it's an ass pull, it's bullshit. I don't know what the fuck you guys want. Listen, we all want Purgatory to not be jobbers, okay? Because it's not very satisfying when that happens. And now that one of the Purgatory fighters is not being a jobber, suddenly it's a fucking problem. I don't know. So, Liu gets up, and apparently this is when he gets into high gear. It's not completely clear what the change exactly is, but based on what I'm seeing, it seems like Liu is becoming much faster at reacting and changing up his strategy to the situation depending on what he needs. He's no longer letting Nitoku get him into grapples. He tries to tackle him, and he elbows Nitoku in the back of the neck. So he's become way more proficient at countering everything Nitoku is doing. It seems like, in summary, when Liu is in high gear, he's pretty much using everything he has to most effectively counter whatever his opponent is throwing at him. And it's really working. And we get a few really good pages and sequences. I especially like the panel where Liu kicks Nitoku in the chin. It's really good. I'm kind of feeling it. I'm kind of feeling the passion in that panel, as I've mentioned a few times, and I think someone pointed out in the comments on the last video, the art in Omega does not seem to really have the same kind of caring and passion put into it as it did in Ashura. You can just go back and compare panels, and it seems like there was just a lot more life in it than there was. A lot of the art in Omega feels relatively stiff in comparison, but there have been a few moments of beauty. I don't know what you want me to say. There are a few moments where it really feels like Ashura. Where Agito used the Dragon Shot on Lu Tien, that was one, like that whole page. I was like, damn, this feels like some shit out of Ashura. And we kind of got that with this panel as well. I don't know if that's just me. But really good shit. And by the end of this chapter, Liu is now kind of kicking Nitoku's ass. So, this fight is really good. It's better than I'd expected, to be honest. I would say it's better than Ryuki versus Naidun. I think it's better than Hayami versus Jiroda. Is it better than Nicholas versus Okoya? We'll see. Because Nicholas versus Okoya got really good in like the last chapter, but then it stopped. So it was pretty good, and then really good, and didn't get to be really good for that long. Hayami versus Jiroda was pretty good, but then the end of it was kind of shit the bed there. And of course, you know, my favorite thus far, I still insist that Rikido versus Falcon's the best fight in the tournament. This fight has just been kind of consistently getting better with each chapter. So we'll see how many chapters are left in this fight. If it's one or two more, I could see it wrapping up next chapter. It'll depend on whether or not we're getting stuff out of Nitoku. We probably have to, so I'd say maybe like 2 more chapters. We'll see what happens with that. If it keeps getting better like this, I think this will be the best fight in the tournament thus far. Really. It's been that good. Now, who do I think's gonna win? I still have my money on Liu, but who knows what'll happen, who knows what kind of howevers we'll get in the next chapter or two. It's still possible that Nitoku could turn things around and win this. I'm kind of uncertain about that because, especially with this chapter, it really feels like Liu is the main character of the fight. He's the protagonist of the fight. I'd go so far as to say that Liu feels like the main character of Purgatory. He's the protagonist for the team. So I'm still betting more on Liu. I do lean more towards him winning, but I still think Itoku winning is a possibility. And we also have to consider what will happen depending on who wins. If Liu wins, Purgatory's back in the lead. Lolong has no reason to come out. Next fight, then, I think, would be Tarashi versus Okubo. If Liu loses, Kengan gets the lead for the first time in the tournament. Then I see Lolong feeling like he has to come out, turn the ship around. Then you have him versus Wakatsuki. And, of course, whatever the next fight is, I think that's ultimately going to decide what the last two fights of the tournament are, of course. Well, no, that just makes sense. If Tarashi goes next, I think I'm really not sure. I feel like Tarashi versus Okubo is the most likely one if Liu wins, because then you have the biggest guy in Purgatory, and who is then probably the most likely candidate to be the Tiger's Vessel. It's a 50-50 shot between either of them, so either of those could be the big dramatic finale, but we'll have to see what happens with that. So yeah, very, very good chapter this week. I'd say it's a 10 out of 10 chapter. Absolutely fantastic. I'm very pleased with it, and I'm very excited to see what happens in the next chapter. So, if you enjoyed this review, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads. I do Kengan Omega chapter reviews every week. If you enjoy other series such as Jujutsu Kaisen and Record of Ragnarok, I do videos on those series as well, so if you're interested in those, you should check out this channel and my backup channel. Since it's the end of the video, it's time to give a shout out to my wonderful patrons: Archbear CJ2K, Fuse, Neo, Dijon Redden, Anthony Chavez, Honey Mustard, Zach Rowitz, K-God, Chris Redfield, Scratch23, Moonshadow935, and Rat. Thank you all very much for supporting me on Patreon. I greatly appreciate it. And if you too want to get a shout out at the end of videos, or access to reviews for Solo Leveling and the Boxer, you can always become a patron as well. Link to my Patreon down in the description. And the last thing, I have a Discord, so if you're interested in talking to me or other people about Kengan Omega or any of the other series I cover on this channel, I highly suggest you go and check that out. I have that linked in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys around. Take care.